Hello everyone, welcome to the deck tech for my video today. I'm going to be piloting the Jeskai Heroic Combo deck that got first place at SCG Oakland last weekend, and I have played 0 games with this deck, but it looks pretty awesome. Uh, Honestly, I'm very impressed by this deck because how do you even build this? Like, how do you go about figuring out that this could even be a deck? It's just so all over the place, but yet it's just like brilliant at the same time. So, I'm really impressed by the deck, and I've heard people say that now that it's a known quantity, it's not going to do as well, but I'm not sure that that's the case because I think the deck's actually kind of resilient, has a lot of interesting elements to it, and has a lot of powerful draws it can have. So, let's go ahead and dig in and look at exactly what this deck can do and some of the neat things in that regard. So to start things off, we have 4 Jeskai Ascendancy, and this is kind of the center point of the deck. This is where the combo part of the deck originates from. What we do is we use Dragon Mantle, Retraction Helix, and Springleaf Drum to kind of repeat with Jeskai Ascendancy over and over again to filter through our deck because of the looting ability and make the creatures we have in play arbitrarily large. And the way that works is if you have 2 creatures, let's say we have an Acrone Crusader and a Monastery Swiftspear in play. We can, you need to have 2 creatures and a Springleaf Drum. What you do is you Retraction Helix one of your creatures, then you use another creature along with the drum to add a mana. Then you use the creature that has the helix on it to bounce the Springleaf Drum. When you recast the drum, you get to untap both of your guys again. You can use the one guy that has helix on it, or you can use the guy that doesn't have helix on it to tap to add mana with Springleaf Drum. Use the other one to bounce the drum, and now you have this mana that you generated, which conveniently lets you recast drum and reset the process over and over again. You can use that to make the creatures you have in play as large as possible. And these creatures then also, by virtue of being extremely large, you can use. They're basically going to kill your opponent, but as you're looting through your deck, you can find God's Willing to let them get through for lethal damage. You can also use the Retraction Helix creature to bounce your opponent's guys, so they can't block. So there's a lot of pretty awesome interactions in that regard. But even beyond that, it's just an actual heroic deck too. We can just play Defiant Strikes, God's Willings, Dragon Mantles on our cheap guys and kill them that way too. We can use Jeskai Ascendancy the natural way. We can just use it alongside a couple Defiant Strikes and God's Willings and Jeskai Charms and Dragon Mantles and Helixes and things like that. Just as a way to make our guys bigger. We don't even have to combo them. We can just make our guys bigger and win that way. So there's a lot of interlocking parts here and a lot of like pretty neat interactions. Um, so yeah, I'm pretty impressed by the deck. One thing I like about it is Jeskai Ascendancy lets you use like God's Willing and Defiant Strike and Retraction Helix and Jeskai Charm to actually protect your guys from cards like Drown in Sorrow as well. So favorite Hoplite, Trailblazer, Seeker, and Swiftspear. I mean, a Acrone Crusader is pretty vulnerable to Drown, but the rest of the creatures can be saved by just a single spell with a Jeskai Ascendancy in play. So there's a lot of awesome things there. And another awesome thing too is if your opponent is going to bring in cards like Utter End, Erase, Naturalize, with the intent of beating Jeskai Ascendancy, you can just still kill them with your creatures. So there's really a lot of nice interlocking parts here. Pretty awesome deck as a whole. I'm really excited to give it a shot. Let's talk a little bit about the sideboard, I guess. We have a couple of Jets, just as removal spells. A couple more Seekers that are going to come in when we need really the life gain, probably against like aggressive decks where we're going to want to gain some life. We're going to bring in the other 2 Seekers as well. And then Ajani's Presence is going to come in against like super spot removal heavy decks where we want more than just 2 God's Willings. We're going to want the Presences as well. 3 erases a lot, but there's a lot of whip decks. There's a lot of like Whip Doomwake Giants, pretty popular right now. There's the other Ascendancy decks and things like that. So it's not that crazy, but it is a little excessive. 3 Chasm Skulker. So this is a card that seems really surprising to me. I'm just kind of a little unsure why this is in the sideboard. It's definitely an interesting one. but it does grow with Jeskai Ascendancy every time you draw a card. You can Dragon Mantle it to make it grow as well, Defiant Strike it, make it grow. And it serves as like a resilient threat, I guess, against control decks where they end hostilities and you get some island walking guys out of the deal. So I guess that's where that's going to shine, but it's definitely a weird card. Not something I would expect to see, but I'm sure it definitely has a reason, and that is the reason where you want to bring it in against those kinds of matchups. Um, we have a few counters here for some of the more control-y decks or big decks where we want to disdainful stroke their big creatures or negate some removal spells. But ultimately, yeah, that's the deck. Definitely an interesting one. Honestly, I don't know all the interactions for this deck. I'm sure there's things with Dragon Mantle and Helix and God's Willing and all kinds of random combos here, and I don't actually know every interaction this deck can do. I'm excited to find out on the fly, and hopefully this deck is as powerful as I think it is, and we can actually do pretty well, even just finding out on the fly, and just see, if this deck has what it takes to be a contender in Standard. So let's go ahead and give it a whirl. We're playing a 4-round daily event, and we're going to jump back in round number 1.